How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sunday, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Well, it's Thursday on this show, and you know what that means? AW Dynamite was last night, and we get to talk about Dynamite here today. And we got a lot to get into. A lot of stuff happened on that show, including the awesome Trios title match, which is slowly leading to whatever we're going to do with the Hangman, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega. It's all began. So we're going to talk about that here today on the program. And we've also got a lot of news. Remember that Vince McMahon documentary? A biopic, I guess is what it was, not a documentary. Vince McMahon biopic. It has been shelved thanks to, you'll never guess, Vince himself has shelved this. We'll tell you about that. There was an interview on the Bill Simmons podcast with Brian Gewirtz, and he talked about the golden egg. You guys remember the golden egg? Yeah, it sucked. The storyline sucked. He acknowledged it sucked, but that might have been the beginning of everything that we have seen with the Bloodline and Sami Zayn. We'll tell you about that. Update on the AEW Revolution pay-per-view. Buys for that show. WWE in Puerto Rico, they've added new shows, but there may be more shows that will be added here soon. And of course, we've got the upcoming AEW Tour of Canada, which will include Forbidden Door. We've got NXT ratings and so much more. If you want to text us today, 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. If you really like my shirt, you're welcome to text me. You can email me as well, Bryan at WrestlingObserver.com. A lot to get into today, Observer Live.
So let's get right into it. Now, I know you said you're not a fan of school, but what is your favorite subject in school?
So definitely this year I take Psychology 101, and it's been my favorite class this year. We're on like a serial killer unit right now, and I'm having like a great time. It's actually something I'm super interested in.
Okay, question number two. Favorite place to hang out when you're not wrestling?
My best friend's house. She has like a trampoline and a pool in her backyard, and I've been friends with her since middle school. So whenever I get to see her over the weekends, and like whenever I'm not all over the place, I love just going over to her house and hanging out.
Question number three. A match or opponent you've learned most from?
Ooh, ah, that's hard. I will say, like, very early on in my career, the person I probably learned most from was Kylie Ray. I had a match with her when I was a little over a year in, and she honestly helped me out so much so early on in my career. So I'm going to give it to her.
Question number four. What's something aside from wrestling that you're a big fan of? And I guess we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I guess if there's anything else.
I'm a big video game person, and I mostly focus on like first shooter games. So I love Call of Duty. I like Splitgate. I like Overwatch. So that's more like my second love whenever I'm not wrestling. I can play video games and have fun. I joke that like when I'm not wrestling, it helps me get like my violent tendencies out. I was like definitely becoming a wrestler, and whenever you have a weekend off and you're like, "Oh my god, I have all this pent up like energy. What's going on? I feel frustrated." And my mom jokes like I get all grumpy when I don't get to wrestle. She was like, "You need to get something out where it's like it builds up in you," and I don't know what it is.
Question number five. Favorite way to spend your time traveling?
Ooh, honestly, I love just hopping on a plane and just falling asleep. If I could sleep on the plane like every single time, I would be a happy soul. But there's like sometimes I'll get squished right in the middle and I'm like, this is the worst. I can't do anything here. Rough sometimes in the car too. I will say like I joke that the traveling beats up my body more than the wrestling sometimes because like trying to sleep in the car and I will wake up and my neck's just sore. I'm like, what happened?
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. A lot to get into today. A long-planned biopic on the rise of WWE Chairman Vince McMahon has now been shelved thanks to Vince McMahon himself. How about that? How about that? Co-directors revealed the news to Slash Film, with one of them saying Vince killed it. It was the first in their career that a studio, actor, and everyone involved was on board, but that the focus, McMahon, simply said they're not making it. Film was in the works as far back as 2017. It was only going to be made with the involvement of WWE Studios, hence why Vince's say mattered. Bradley Cooper was once attached to the movie to play Vince McMahon. So yeah, we're on a very long list of people who got effed over by Vince, the producer said. A multi-part Netflix series about McMahon is still in the docket, and a new book on him is being released later this month. You know, the thing with old Vince is Vince always says all sorts of things, and he doesn't mean it. He lies. Are you aware of that? He'll say, I want you to, if you don't like something, I want you to let me know. I want to hear your criticisms. He don't really want to. I mean, if you're The Rock, if you're Roman Reigns, The Undertaker, Steve Austin, I'm sure, if, Steve goes, I ain't feeling it. He's like, all right, well, what do you want to do? But if you're like anybody below that level, it's like he'll tell you that, but he don't mean it. And the thing with all these is, they were going to do this. You remember what I heard when they first were announcing they were going to do this, planned biopic? It was like Vince wants it to be truthful. He wants it to be, don't sugarcoat anything. Just tell it like it is. You think he really wants that? Of course not. So anyway, it's dead. Now the book will be out later, and we'll see about this multi-part Netflix docuseries, what happens there. But that's the story.
Well, when it comes to the Netflix docuseries, is WWE involved in that? Because I do not believe that they are heavily involved. They are certainly not backing the book that's going to be coming out next year, I don't believe, or later on this year.
They're definitely not involved in that book, I can tell you that.
Definitely not involved in that. So what about the Netflix documentary?
I don't know, but I'm looking at this Bradley Cooper.
Yes?
This is the guy that's going to play Vince?
Well?
God. I'm available. I have acting experience. I think I could do a pretty darn good Vince McMahon. I've been watching all those 90s retro Raws. I've been watching him through the Attitude Era. And trust me, I've been watching him a lot of late. I think I could pull this off.
I don't know. I'm not sure you could make it through the makeup process at this point. We saw what happened last time you tried to do Vince.
What's funny is back when I did like a lot of little, I dabbled in acting.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a lot of the things that I did on DVD, which is unfortunate because I don't have a DVD player. But there was one, I don't know what it was that we did. It was some, I think I had to play a boss or something like that. And, without even trying or having any, like, as soon as the cameras turned on, I was Vince. And I like had the walk and like the whole 9 yards, and they loved it. And man, I never got a copy of it. I was very disappointed. I don't know if I'll ever. I don't even remember what the name of it was to like see if it ever got released. Like they put it up on YouTube or whatever. But man, that was my opus.
Do you have anything stuck on like Super VHS or anything like that?
No.
I think I got some stuff like that. Stuff that was taped, but now I can't convert.
Everybody's saying, I don't want to hear about Vince. All right, Post Wrestling had this up the other day. By the other day, I mean today. Several years ago, the 2021 WWE Survivor Series event, Vince McMahon arrived with a, quote, Cleopatra egg that was, quote, worth a great deal of money. Bro, listen, I love Post Wrestling. I love everybody there. But why do we have random quotation marks around some of these words? It was worth a great deal of money, it says here. This was included in the broadcast to promote the Red Notice film, which stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And at the time, WWE was celebrating 25 years since Johnson's debut for the company. Former WWE writer current SVP of television for the Dwayne Johnson-owned $7 Productions, Brian Gewirtz, looked back on that storyline while on the Bill Simmons podcast. Gewirtz stated that the original creative was, quote, much worse than what was presented on screen. So, I keep hearing like, it's just as bad as it always was. It's no better now. Wrong! That egg was horrible, and according to Brian Gewirtz, the original was much worse. When himself and Johnson heard the original idea, they discussed it and decided that it needed to be changed. Gewirtz added that he heard it was Sami Zayn's performance in the storyline that led to McMahon realizing what he had in Sami. He says, this is what I was told. At Survivor Series, not this past Survivor Series, but the one before, we were doing Red Notice product integration in the pay-per-view, and this thing, as far as there was like a magical golden egg, that if you recall, it was much heavily reviled Night of Creative. Sure was. Everybody hated the angle, as far as this golden egg that Austin Theory found, and Sami Zayn ratted him out and everything else like that. The original creator for that, won't go into it, but just trust me, it was much, 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 much worse. When I discussed it with Dwayne, I was like, yeah, that's got to change. And then I think Vince and the team came up with the egg thing, which most people watching it were, they didn't like it for whatever reason. That's fine. But I was told during those vignettes where Sami kind of stooged off Austin Theory, wanted him to be punished, and then was put in a situation where whatever the creative was, but that was a turning point as far as Vince going, hey, this Sami, I always liked him, but I think we should have a look at that egg angle now a little bit differently. Perhaps give props to the golden, magical $100 million egg, because listen, talent always rises to the top. Sami is amazing. Would have risen to the top anyway. But I just thought it was funny that, it was those vignettes where Vince really took notice as far as Sami as a performer. And he was like, damn right. I can't guarantee Sami would have risen to the top. Because you know what? There have been a lot of guys that they were very talented and they didn't rise to the top. Some of them got fired. Some of them ended up everywhere and rose to the top. But anyway, he thinks that really opened Vince's eyes to Sami Zayn. That angle with the egg. You know what else I like about it here is... I like a lot of WWE nowadays. I like a lot of Raw and SmackDown, like NXT. But, I don't like everything. I'm an honest guy. Sometimes stuff is dumb. And they did that angle with Brock and Omos on Monday. And they had one spot and they botched it. I made a comment about this. And have you looked at some of the comments on my Twitter timeline about this? I can't figure this Twitter out. Like, randomly, certain ones will end up on my normal timeline. I don't even know why. It's like, are they a special person or something? Why does this end up on my... But anyway, there were so many people defending this. In, like, every which way, they were defending this botch. And, it's like, well, I don't like my wrestling to look like gymnastics. Well, it wasn't really a botch. It was all Brock's. Well, it made it look more real. Like every defense in the book for this obvious botch. And, we see these storylines that are dumb. And then, we talk about how dumb the storyline is. And it's the same thing. They come in and they're defending, oh, but this egg. I mean, why do you have to be so uptight about it? Like, it's just a storyline with an egg. It's funny. And they defend it up and down. And then later you hear, actually, everybody hated it. They realized how stupid it was. They thought it was horrible. It's like, I think some of these fans are they're such fans that they want to defend everything because they think that the people that work there actually like everything. And so, Brian didn't like that, so I'm going to defend it because, I'm sure the people involved really liked it. You know how often the people involved hate it? Probably worse than I do. But we must defend. It's kind of a weird fandom thing, but whatever. Defend it if you want. Because it sucked. The egg thing sucked. And Brock Lesnar and Omos botched a spot. And I'm going to break. Observer Live.
What was it like going to those early tours in Mexico when you're still not yet accepted? And, like you mentioned, kind of those barriers that you were kind of going through. What was the difference in terms of going then to those early trips in Mexico and then now when you're going to Mexico? Obviously, totally different.
Yeah, completely. Totally. My first time that I went, so they used to run these really big lucha libre shows here in Chicago at the Congress Theater with like these super names like Wagner, Parka, Demon, anybody you can think of. So I was performing in front of like 2 or 3 thousand people at 17 years old and meeting all these people. And I was playing a heel. I was throwing tortillas at the crowd. I caught the attention of one of the mega stars of CMLL at the time, whose name is Tarzan Boy. And this story is pretty crazy. I'll take you through it. He hands me a piece of paper with a lot of phone numbers on it. He's like, please call me, because I was telling him I want to go to Mexico someday. He's like, when you get there, please call me. He didn't really speak any English. So I held on to that piece of paper for a long time until I decided, graduated high school. I said, you know what? Worked out like a crazy madman. I'm going to Mexico. Finally get to Mexico. I get all the way down there. I don't speak a lick of Spanish at this point. And I just stay at the hotel that he had maybe mentioned and is kind of close to Arena, Mexico. And I called the number once, called the number twice, and there's no answer. And I said, oh my God, I'm in a foreign country. This guy isn't answering. It was probably a fake number. I don't even know how to dial all these numbers, so I was probably dialing it wrong. And I don't leave my hotel room for 3 full days because I am terrified that I'm going to get kidnapped and or whatever else they do to foreigners that I thought back then, right? I stayed in my room for 3 days. I got room service for 3 days. And I took the phone number down to the front desk and I had them call, and he finally answers. So I'm 17 years old. He finally answers. He comes to pick me up. We start to train in Arena, Mexico with the top guys. Now, you got to understand at this time, I didn't know who anybody was, but now looking back, it was the class that everybody's trying to be in with Ultimo Guerrero, Virus, Mystico, everybody that you can imagine. And I'm rolling around with them at 17, which is just unheard of now. And I'll never forget, like, one of those classes, we went down into the ring in the middle of Arena Mexico, man, and I was like, this is where I'm trying to be. It's just incredible, the trajectory that this path that I've taken. And I want to go back to you. I wanted to bring it all back to your question. Going back to my start and going into the locker rooms and not knowing the language, obviously very nervous, uneasy, trying to be accepted, to now I go into these locker rooms and I'm completely accepted, respected, and people are eager to work with me. So it's just a complete 180 for sure.
Back on the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. WWE is going to be in Puerto Rico for SmackDown Friday, May 5. This is the night before the Backlash show that will be hosted by Bad Bunny. And while they've not made an announcement, apparently there's discussion of perhaps doing Raw in Puerto Rico as well. So I guess we'll find out what they end up doing. But May 5th, there will be a Friday SmackDown in Puerto Rico, and then the Backlash show will be airing on Sunday. Dave had an update on the Revolution pay-per-view buys. Late buys were strong, he says. It's going to end up in the range of low to mid 130,000, which is very, very similar to the last show. Tony Khan had said at the press conference it was going to finish between 130 and 140. It's down from the 2022 Revolution, which actually did 175,000 buys. The 2021 Revolution, 135,000 buys. And down a little bit from the last 3 shows, but it... I almost died. I choked on my own air. You ever done that?
You choked on something.
It sucks. Anyway, John Jones returned for UFC the night before, and traditionally that does affect actual pay-per-views. Not so much like a Peacock, because you're not paying for the pay-per-view, but if you're being asked to pay $50 for a show, and there's a UFC show the night before that you actually want to watch, it usually does hurt buys around 5-10%. So didn't hurt them that much, but they were down a little bit. So that's the Revolution pay-per-view buy update. They're also going to Canada. Tour. They've got several days, starting at late June. The Forbidden Door 2 pay-per-view will be taking place on Sunday, June 25th. And then they've got June 28th, Dynamite Rampage in Hamilton, Ontario. July 5th, Dynamite Rampage at Rogers Place. July 12th is a Dynamite in Saskatoon. And July 14th is a Rampage in Saskatchewan. And then Saturday, there's an AEW House Rules show, which is, in fact, a house show. And that will be at the Saddle Dome as part of the world-famous, not as world-famous as the NXT Dynamite and Raw reports, but the world-famous Calgary Stampede. That's the lineup for those shows. And Paul Fontaine was at the Dynamite show last night. And I have not seen this, okay? I have not seen this because I just got this text during the show. But he says Kenny had some comments after the show last night that led people to believe that he is reuniting with Kota Ibushi soon. The video is on Paul Fontaine's Twitter. So if you want to find his Twitter, you can. And he also notes that they sold a ton of merch. Doors open 2 hours before Dynamite. Within 15 minutes, long lines by the end of the night. Every single thing sold out, except there were a couple of 2XL Scissor Me Daddy shirts and a couple of $95 AEW hoodies. But as far as merch business, apparently did very well. But I bring up the comment there.
$95.
I bring up the comment because he made that comment in Canada. And Forbidden Door is in Canada. And granted, Forbidden Door is done, in association with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, now that Kota Ibushi is no longer with New Japan, I don't know if they'd say like you can't use him or anything like that. I don't know. But I just think it's all interesting.
I would assume that they would probably not want him used on a show that they were co-promoting. But you know what? He doesn't have to be on that show now, does he? So I think at some point we are going to see them get back together, whether it be on American soil or in Japan. Hard to believe that won't happen. Maybe even as soon as WrestleMania weekend, we may see them in the same place at the same time. We'll have to wait and see. But did Paul say anything that Chris Jericho then grabbed the mic away from Kenny, and he said that he was going to possibly reunite the Thrill Seekers for the Saddle Dome in Calgary?
No.
Oh, good. Then my interest level is now way down.
DJ is noting, so what? Kota doesn't work for them. Well, you're right, but Tony,
it's a co-promoted show with New Japan.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing:
feelings.
if they're doing a co-promoted show with New Japan, and New Japan says we don't want this person working for the show, like Tony's not going to have him work for the show. I mean, we've actually seen this before. Like they had, I think it might have been the last Forbidden Door, where I think it was like AAA. Something was happening, and
well, yeah, you can't have AAA tie-ins there, so you couldn't have like.
Well, they wouldn't allow the Lucha Brothers to work the show. Like the Lucha Brothers weren't allowed to work the show, and it might have been Forbidden Door because New Japan has a relationship with CMLL, I think is what it was.
Well, and Brian, I think bottom line when it comes to Kota Ibushi is it's a joint promoted show. So if you're looking at it from New Japan's point of view, forget about any bad feelings they may have to Kota. It's like, well, we're not going to give up somebody on our side we're going to feature on this show. And if he's not signed with AEW, then there really is no reason for him to be on that show. So it doesn't really make any sense, although it would make fans feel good from a business point of view. It kind of doesn't really make any sense, especially considering, again, his value, I think, is with AEW more than any joint promoted show with New Japan or anything like that. They don't need him for that show. I think he's better off, again, if they're going to do something with he and Kenny Omega, it's better served on an AEW-only property.
Well, maybe you're right. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. But that's what he said, and Kota Ibushi wants to get his training school going before he makes a decision about going anywhere. And, I don't know what his decision is going to be. Don't rule out anything. I know everyone wants to rule out WWE, but don't rule out anything.
But you don't know anything.
Well, I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know what the guy's going to do. But don't rule out anything. NXT on Tuesday, 590,000 viewers, down 5% from Roadblock. Third largest audience this month, 18 to 49.15. Tied the second highest number in that category since January 3rd. So those are the NXT numbers. And by the way, Roxanne. So Dave had a really weird thing last night. And he sounded like the doctor on NXT. He goes, she's not stripped of the title, but they did this angle in case she is stripped of the title. I was like, what? And he says, well, there's something that may be a problem but may not. And I said, what? So, here's the deal. JC Jane is out of action with a shoulder injury, okay? And she worked the match with Gigi that wasn't very good, and then she was gone. So, yeah, you can work a match with certain injuries, okay? But with Roxanne, it's she didn't really faint, okay? That was all fake. She worked a long match with Miko Satomura, okay? And the key to me is she also was training the next day. So, if she had something that might be an injury that needed to be looked at, and they wanted to do the match with Miko and then do the angle so then she could be checked out or whatever, well, then you'd think she wouldn't be training but she was training the next day. So I don't know what's going on, but my presumption is that she's probably showing up at the ladder match or something like that, or making a big return here too. It wasn't like it was like the Gigi JC match was just it wasn't good. There wasn't anything to it. I mean, her and Miko, they had a match. It was a good match. It was a hard-hitting match. It's one of the best women's matches they've had in forever. So, I mean, I don't know what the injury would be where she could do a match like that and then be training the next day, but then they're not sure if they have the stripper of the title. So I don't know what's going on. But she was training the next day, so it's not something I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Well, if it's
where's that doctor again?
Legit, maybe she needs an actual sports psychologist or psychiatrist or something like that. I don't know. If it's not a physical injury, it just maybe have something to do with, again, just process or something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's the direction they're going to go anyway, since they decided to bring that up. Now, of course, that was wet blanketed by Booker T saying that, we're at a low here and things may not be able to get much worse or anything like that. So who knows what they're going to do. I'm still stuck on what exactly the creative could have been at first when it came to this egg. Was it
You're
going
still
to be
hung up on the egg?
Well, yeah, the gobbledygooker and the ghost of Mae
here's
Young
a problem,
got
Mike.
together, or
Here's
what?
a problem. You weren't listening.
Oh, I wasn't?
The original
You've
idea.
been talking the entire show.
The original idea didn't involve the egg. The egg was the better idea. So whatever the idea was prior to that, it was eggless, okay?
You mean Dwayne's not showing up? We told you that months ago, Vince. Are you serious? Oh, we got an egg. It's just ridiculous. Go ahead.
Well, so maybe someday there will be a clamoring. Maybe this is an excuse for Brian Gewirtz to write another book.
Do you have an undershirt on?
Tell me what's going on. What?
Do you have an undershirt on, or is that just pure chest you got underneath that Hawaiian shirt? I'm jealous. It's freezing cold over here. Look at you in a Hawaiian shirt. It's March 16th. It's terrible.
Well, you see, Mike, I'm inside a house.
Mm-hmm.
We have this thing called heat. So it can be cold outside.
You get a grass skirt on there, too?
Which it is. But then I can turn on the heat inside the house and wear a Hawaiian shirt.
What would you know about heat?
I'm getting out of here. Observer Live.
We were working together at NWA. We were working together in so many different places, and people think that we've been tagging for years, and we've only been tagging 2, I guess, right? November 2020 was our first
a little over 2 years.
A little over 2 years, but during quarantine, everyone's sitting at home. We're kind of trying to figure out what's next. When things reopen, when shows start back up again, what are we going to do? And we decided, why not do things on our own terms? That's the one thing people are going to have to learn about the Hex, is we do things when we want and how we want to do them. And so we one day just started spitballing stuff back and forth. We were able to use social media, during 2020 to start getting these opportunities and people being like, oh, what's going on? It's crazy because we did it all on our own. I think that we did this without a contract in any company. We did this, reaching out to, and that's another thing that's really cool too, is that we can pull from each other's contacts. AK is going to reach out to this company in England. All right, cool. I'm going to reach out to this one in Spain. Like, we're just going to keep working together. And that's like that's the craziest thing, is that we did this completely on our own, just betting on ourselves and being like, we're going to go over to the UK. We're going to do all these fucking amazing matches there. We're going to come back and kill it here in the US. And we're just going to keep going. And to me, that is like, what is the craziest to me? Like, I don't care how high I've gotten by myself, whatever. Like, to me, doing it as a team, and there are so many freaking amazing tag teams in the world, period. But to be in the top 10 and being the only women in the top 10
in the US.
Not gonna lie. In the US, not gonna lie, like, felt really fucking good.
Well, a lot of people do ask us why we're called the Hex. And while James Mitchell may be using us to put a hex on the death dolls, we do also like to clarify, we're not witches. There are a lot of witches in wrestling right now, and we're not trying to be witches. We're called the Hex because we will ruin your whole life. I want to touch on something you actually mentioned earlier, Denise, about filling a void, because that is something we talked about in 2020. I feel like throughout our careers, we have always looked for what is missing in wrestling right now, because you can't just be like everyone else. We've always tried to, of course, play to our strengths and find things that are missing in wrestling. And I feel like in 2020, we really said to each other at one point, there are not really many women tag teams on the indies that are established. I think at the time it was like Sea Stars, and that might have been about it, because there wasn't a lot of indie tag teams in the US of females. And that was a huge part of why we're like, we should do this. We are actually friends. We actually want to tag together. All the tag teams we're seeing, some on TV too, but also especially on the indies, we're throwing together people. I think that's something that also draws people to us, is that they can feel that we want to be here and that we're actually having fun together. That's something people say to us when they see us in the ring, is, you look like you're actually having fun out there. And we're like, that's because we are.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also WrestlingObserver.com. It is time for the world-famous Dynamite Report. And if you want a far longer and more in-depth Dynamite Report, it'll be tonight on the Bryan and Vinny Show. We have 90 minutes to review Dynamite and NXT. So, sometimes I review these. I didn't skip it. I'm going to do it tonight, okay? I can't do everything. Now,
you're only one man, Bryan Alvarez.
The Dynamite show last night opened up with the re-bar mitzvah of MJF. And I will talk a lot about this tonight. But the gist of it is that he came out for his party, and then we had all of the pillars of AEW come out. Sammy Guevara comes out, Jungle Boy comes out, Darby Allin come out. They all won a championship match. And they all cut a promo on MJF. And then in the end, of course, MJF says, listen, I beat all of you. None of you deserves a title shot. Get out of here. He attacks Jungle Boy. Big brawl breaks out. He gets sent off the apron. He bumps through a table with a cake on it. It's covered in cake. And, the thing to me is this. Overall, I liked this, okay? Overall. But there were several things that I would have changed, okay? And I'm just going to give you one example. And that is when Sammy Guevara, he's talking about his history in AEW, and he says, I worked horrible jobs. I busted my ass on the indies for a decade. And when I got here, I was told that I was only supposed to be the inner circle's job guy. You know, one of the guys who just loses because it's fake. And the bump guy for Chris Jericho. You know, I take all the bumps because it's fake. I don't like it. And here's the thing. Here's the thing with this and with all of these, okay? When you do segments and you're shooting on each other or whatever, you know what's funny about shooting on people in promos? The fans never buy it, except for the really stupid ones. And I can tell you that the people that you should not be directing your television to are the really stupid fans, okay? So the fans don't buy that you're shooting on each other, which is ironic because there actually have been times when people have shot on each other and the fans still didn't believe it. So stop with the shooting, okay? The thing with the Sammy thing is, if Sammy would have just said, when I was brought in, I was put in the position to just be the lackey for the Jericho. I was going to carry his bags. You know, that's all you have to say. I was brought in with the expectation that I was going to be this guy's lackey, carry his bags. But you know what? I ended up winning 3 titles. You see, it's the exact same story, but it's actually way better. So in all of these situations here, there was a line this person said, there was a line that person said. It was like, you could have done the exact same thing, but not, you know, pull back the curtain. I mean, how am I supposed to sit there as a fan and have a guy go, I was just brought in to do jobs and take bumps for another guy, but then I won titles. Wait, what? Shouldn't you be saying, like, I was brought in to do bumps, but then I was booked to be the champion later? No, it's either like, is it fake or is it real? I would rather, I realize I'm old and all, but I'd rather as a fan watch and have a guy go, you know, I was brought in and I just, you know, I was a skinny guy. I was just there to carry the bags and help this guy out, drive his car, you know, whatever. But I ended up way overshooting that target, and I became a 3-time champion. You know what? I can beat you. It's the same thing, but better. So anyway, you know, that was the opening segment. It went 20 minutes. It was long.
Bryan,
and yes?
He also has been a pillar the whole time. That's the thing, too, is now we have to have some revisionist history where he could have just said, you know what, they named me a pillar, but they didn't think that. They always thought that I'd be in the background. There's ways you could have portrayed it, and they could have cut off a lot of time by cutting some of that other real stuff out of it and just concentrating more on wanting to be champion. And there needs to be a better balance between outside the ring real life stuff and shoot work stuff and actually, like, you know, the wrestling. And that's one of their biggest problems is sometimes the matches are great, but sometimes, like, the environment in which they're in, like, it should be about that title. It should be about being on top, not about constantly somebody wants to leave or we're going to refer to somebody who wants to leave and all that sort of stuff. It just, I liked the idea. I didn't even hate the fact that they went 20 minutes WWE style. Again, I would have made it a little bit shorter, but the concept itself in getting all of the pillars out there, I thought was a success. But like you mentioned, I thought the dialogue was a bit much.
We had a rock hard Juice Robinson promo about old Ricky Starks. They're going to be feuding. They did the Jade Cargill Open Challenge, and we figured it would be Taya, but they did it a little bit differently, which is actually a better idea. And that is, first, Jade just faces Nicole Matthews. She squashed her in 30 seconds. And then afterwards, as she's bullying Renee, then Taya debuts. So they didn't beat Taya the first night in. They clearly did not want Taya to win the title from her the first night in. So Taya shows up. She hits Layla Gray with the Jaded. She's got a lot of charisma. Continue, Mike. I got to sneeze.
Okay. Yes, Taya Valkyrie does have a lot of charisma, and yes, I guess you could have had her go out there and win the title. That would have been cool, but it actually doesn't help Jade Cargill along either. At least we'll get a little bit of a program out of this. Jade continues to do what Jade does, and Taya can showcase off her skills, and they can work together backstage on a match that whenever it comes time, they can have their big one in a big moment.
My allergies are killing me. Killing me.
Some Zyrtec.
And then I love when there's like a problem and then somebody has a recommendation. You mean I could take allergy meds? I had not thought of that.
What's it
I'll
like,
be right
Brian?
back,
What's
Mike.
it like to be a know-it-all, to tell people all about their lives and their maladies and everything else? I had brain cysts. You told me how to deal with those off the air. And so,
No,
come
I
on.
didn't. What are you talking about?
Believe me, you've got a lot of advice for a lot of people, pal.
Yeah, I was like, go to the doctor. That's hardly, what did you call it? A know-it-all? At 47 years old, I'm a know-it-all because I have allergies and I know enough to get an allergy medication? Come on.
No, you're not a know-it-all.
You called me a know-it-all. Now you're backtracking.
Douche.
QTV, speaking of know-it-alls.
Oh, this sucked.
Oh, wow.
Look, no, not because of QT. I like QT. But you know what? Hobbs? What happened to the book? What's the deal? I don't know.
What book? What are you talking about?
The Book of Hobbs.
He's still got his Book of Hobbs. He's still writing
What is
it.
it? Was Solo sitting
Hey, listen,
on
I
top
will
of
be a
it?
know-it-all in this case. I wrote a book. It takes a long time, a lot of effort. You got to do
Yeah,
other
did you
things in
color
the
it
meantime.
all within the lines?
So they're all heels. They're telling bad jokes. They're howling. It's a TMZ ripoff. And then they reveal that Aaron Solo is a freaking criminal. This guy broke into Wardlow's car and stole all of his stuff, including his passport, which I think, by the way, when you reveal on national television, international television, that you broke into someone's car and stole their passport, I think the feds are coming after you, brother. Just so you know, QT. Yeah. And it ain't better than a granny segment. I'm sorry. QT Marshall.
He was not better than a granny segment. No way.
Orange Cassidy, Jeff Jarrett for the AW International title. Hey, listen.
It was awesome.
I don't care, guys. Like, get off my back. Jeff Jarrett has not had one match in AEW that has not been entertaining and a crowd pleaser. Every single one. He's in there with Orange. It's every wacky gimmick. It's a total, 2009 TNA Jeff Jarrett main event match. There's guitars, there's interference, there's the whole 9 yards. And finally, Mike has just walked away and, of course, put the headphones right next to the mic so you can hear a loud echo. And he hits the Orange Punch. He gets the win. I liked it. I enjoyed this a lot. And he didn't win.
He says Brian needs to write the book. Too late, everybody. Jerry Jarrett already wrote the book on the death of TNA.
No, you know what? He wrote a book.
He did write a book
about TNA. But let's not pretend that there's only one book about any topic.
'Tis true.
Outcast come down to the ring for a promo. I actually don't think that I can say on the air what Saraya called these fans. And then after she said it, I don't even know if she meant to say what she said. But at that point, she just surrendered the mic. She's like, here you go, Tony. Just take it. And so, they bury the fans and everybody else. And then JB and Britt hit the ring for a brawl. It's 3-on-2. They end up overwhelmed. Riho hits the ring with Willow and Sky Blue. The heels bail. I know Dave thinks this is all about 3-on-3, and he may be right. I don't know, okay? But I saw 5 baby faces and 3 heels. Okay? I think they are building to women's blood and guts. And we need 2 more outcasts. I don't know who they're going to be, but they need 2 more outcasts for blood and guts.
With all due respect, maybe not Willow Nightingale, but can we get Sky Blue out of there and maybe replace her with a Karu Shida?
Nope, she's in there.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Daddy Magic, Angelo Parker mark out over the Acclaim's rap earlier. They're going to face the Bollywood Boys on Rampage. And then for the Trios title, it is the Jericho Appreciation Society versus the House of Black versus the Elite. They gave this from start to finish 29 minutes, and it was great. And they're in Winnipeg, and so the whole match is about teasing Jericho going one-on-one with Kenny Omega. And, of course, it gets foiled, and then they try again, and it gets actually, the second time they tried, they actually teamed up to get rid of the House of Black. And then finally at the end, they get brawling and they do their spots. And they built to it perfectly. And the Bucks were great. And the House of Black was great. They had all sorts of big spots there at the end. We had near falls. Jericho hit Brody with a bat. Sammy hit the shooting star to the outside. Jericho makes the cover. Brody kicks out. Place went nuts for that near fall. House of Black triple teams Garcia. They hit him with the Asbury Park driver, whatever it's called, the thingamajigger. They pin him, and the match is excellent. And then earlier in the show, which I don't even know if I reviewed this match, it was a Blackpool Combat Club. Where is this match? Oh, yeah. Hangman Stu Grayson, Evil Uno versus Moxley, Claudio, and Wheeler Yuta. That match was awesome. And, the heels, which is the Blackpool Combat Club, they win. They refuse to stop choking out Stu Grayson. So Dark Order, Silver, and Reynolds run down to make the save. So they start brawling outside. And they brawled for, in storyline, an hour and 15 minutes, which is pretty impressive. And then they finally brawl back to the ring at the end of this thing. And ends up with, Hangman coming down. And he ends up all alone in the ring. And the BCC gets in the ring. And, man, they're going to take out this Hangman. And all of a sudden they stop. And they back off. And Hangman doesn't know what's up. And as he's about to turn around, the Elite have his back. And so I presume this is, boom, your whole summer storyline here. The Elite, the Blackpool Combat Club, Hangman, Adam Page, and I think it's going to be awesome. But we shall see where they end up going. But great cliffhanger, and I thought this was a very, very good episode of Dynamite.
Yeah, for some of the lows that it had, the highs were really very good. And the matches that we talked about that were really good, hey, those are the ones you should go out of your way and watch. But for a lot of that show, yeah, you'll have to probably put your finger on the fast forward button for some of the stuff that did not take place inside the ring.
Well, I like to think that you got to watch it all, Mike.
Oh, yeah?
Man, to see what's good, what's bad. And I want to thank this person here from the 720 area code who says, I like your shirt. Thank you. I like your text. Back in a moment. Wrestling Observer Live.
I'm going to ask you guys each a question about the other person, and then you just let me know if the other person is wrong or not. And we're going to start off with Marty here. So here we go. Question number 1. What is Allison's favorite food?
What Allison could eat all the time, maybe not necessarily her favorite food, but what she could eat all the time is sushi.
Is she right?
Correct.
Wee, ding, ding, ding. All right. What is Allison's favorite genre of music?
Ooh, that one's really hard because Allison listens to a lot of different things. A lot of things that you wouldn't expect her to listen to. But if I had to pick one, if what's probably playing in her house now, I want to say your mom's country music.
Oh, okay. Is she right?
I would say yes. My playlists are reggaeton and 90s country.
And that was going to be my other one.
90s.
Spice Girls.
That's not what I was expecting, by the way. I was not expecting that whatsoever. All right. Question number 3. What is Allison's favorite item of clothing?
Her favorite. Oh, is it her favorite or what I know she likes to wear? And what if she wasn't?
It could be like a specific item, yeah.
If she wasn't on camera right now, she would have her red robe on.
I'm a robe guy. Yeah, I'm a robe guy at home for sure.
Question number 4. Is Allison an early bird or a night owl?
I will literally get text messages from Allison at 2 or 3 in the morning. Allison is a night owl.
Okay, and last question. This one's more on whatever you think, Marty. What is one word to describe Allison?
One word? I think it's one that we both have used to describe each other, loyal.
Allison, your turn. Question number 1. What is Marty's favorite social media app?
Well, you know what it isn't.
I know it's not Twitter for sure. I guess by default it would be Instagram.
That's the only one I really use, yeah.
Okay. Question number 2. What is Marty's favorite movie?
Ooh.
Marty's favorite movie. Oh,
Does Marty watch movies?
I know. I'm Marty doesn't really watch movies.
My favorite horror movie.
Your favorite horror movie is The Orphan.
Okay, there we go. Good one. Question number 3. What is Marty's favorite color?
Purple. Easy.
All righty.
I'm trying to listen to the camera. I'm literally wearing purple eyeshadow. Yes.
Oh yeah, I see it. Question number 4. Does Marty prefer going out or staying in?
That's hard to say because I feel like both of us it can change on a whim. Marty, I will say Marty is definitely more extroverted than I am. So I'm just going to say going out, but I also know she loves staying in. So I don't know. There's not really a good answer to that one.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Yeah, literally everything AK just said.
All right. And last question, same question is, what's the one word you would use to describe Marty?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many going through my head right now. Resilience.
Oh, that's a strong word.
You know
I
what's
love that.
freaking insane? I swear to you, that is what I was gonna say for yours.
I believe you.
I wish we could have been like writing this down, like holding it up, because I
Or said it
swear
at the
that
same
was the
time.
first one that came
Yes.
up. Yeah.
Back at the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Oh, man. Look at this. Look at this feedback we got.
What we got?
Well, this person says, your shirt's fine. Can't compare to Hager's hat, though.
Well, that's true.
You're right, because one's a hat and one's a shirt. And I like this shirt. Al says there's not enough CGI in all of Hollywood to make you tall enough to play Vince. Get out of here. Don't you know nothing about movies, you mark?
You're shorter than Tom Cruise.
Then this person here says, unlikely. Your former tag partner has been tearing it up in Japan, and I don't mean filthy. Billy Starks is killing it over there. What do you mean my former partner? Just because she, as all my partners, by the way, completely and utterly let me down the last time we tagged together?
Oh, right.
This is Tom's chance coming up this Saturday. Well, it's Saturday after, I guess, to not let me down. We are going to team up for Black Label Pro March 25th. Get your tickets now or watch it on FITE.tv. We are facing these Bang Bros, I hear, and we are going to win the Black Label Pro Tag Team Championships. I'm going to bring them back here. I'm going to put the belts right there where we used to have a thing, and that's also where the plaque's going to go for 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're less than 500 subscribers away. Go smash, bang that subscribe button, and let's get to 100,000 today. In fact, if you get to 100,000 today, I will allow Oreo the Orca to co-host this show. That ain't happening. We'll talk to you next time. Wrestling Observer Live.